Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Bracha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 38th chapter. Honor a physician, and a physician is like today you call him a doctor, or even still a physician. But it says here, with the honor due unto him, for the uses which ye may have of him, for the Lord hath created him. Right, there's some that the Lord has given, the skill to be healers. Okay, so honor them accordingly, because the Lord has them there for a reason, to be knowledgeable in the use of medicine for healing. For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king. Because see, the king, even when the king is sick, right, who does he go to? The physician. See, so they're honored even amongst the king. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head, meaning it's going to put him in high positions. And in the sight of great men, he shall be in admiration. Today, for example, why do you think people in the healthcare, depending on the role, right, certain surgeons and doctors, they get paid a lot? Because the role that they play, being a physician, it's very, very important. It's a very good skill. It says here, the Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. And that's going into the herbs. All the medicines that we have, they come from the earth. Even the ones that you go and buy over the counter, prescription medication, the ingredients they use in there, they still have to get it from the earth. Okay? But the herbs, if you abhor them, it's counting against you, right? You got to use them because the Lord created them for, the benefit of man. Was not the water made sweet with wood, that the virtue thereof might be known, right? It's going back to the wilderness, when the Lord had Moses, cast that branch, into the water and made it sweet. It was safe to drink again, right? And that showed the power of the Lord, right? But also shows, through the casting in of that herb into the water, the miracle that the Lord did, but he used that illustration. It says here, and he hath given men skill, that he might be honored in his marvelous works. See, so if nobody knew how to use the herbs, then the herbs wouldn't be as, rewarding. But it's by the knowledge of, okay, combining this with this, heals this. If you're sick, take this. If you have this, do this, because it'll do this in your body. That actually honors, right? It gives honor to the Lord's marvelous works, because there's somebody who, through their skill, can actually explain or enlighten you into just how marvelous the Lord is. See, once you take it, you're like, damn, Lord, like, wow, you created all this too? And this can do that, and this can do that. And the more you learn about it, you're like, wow. And it honors the Lord, right? And his marvelous works, you marvel at it. With such doth he heal men, right? With what? With the skills and the herbs, and taketh away their pains. Of such doth the apothecary make a confection, and of his works there is no end. And from him is peace over all the earth, right? Peace through good health. And let's read this as well in the GNTD. It says here, the druggist mixes these medicines, and the doctor will use them to cure diseases and ease pain. There is no end of the activities of the Lord, who gives health to the people of the world. My son, in thy sickness be not negligent, but pray unto the Lord, and he will make thee whole. That's the first thing, right? It tells us that in the book of Psalms. I believe this is Psalm 108. Let me see. Or is it a different precept, verse 8? Let's see. Psalm 103, verse 3. Right, it says, this is the Lord, right? Verse 2, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgiveth all thine iniquities, who healeth all thy diseases. Right, that comes from the Lord. So when you're sick, first thing you should do is pray. Okay, and he will make you whole. Now, he might use a physician, you got to use the herbs, but the Lord is the one who, as we're going to read on down, gives success to the physician. Leave off from sin and order thine hands aright, right? Set your mind right and your strength to do what's right, and cleanse thy heart from all wickedness, right? Repent of whatever iniquity you may have been doing. And that might have been what warranted that judgment on you. Give a sweet savor and a memorial of fine flour, that's an offering to the Lord, and make a fat offering as not being. Okay, so that's let me read that here in the GNTD. It says, offer incense and grain offering as fine as you can afford. Then give place to the physician. See, once you've prayed, you may have made an offering to the Lord if you're capable, but then you give place to the physician. First is prayer, though. For the Lord hath created him, let him not go from thee, for thou hast need of him. See, you need that physician. You keep him right there. Okay, because who's going to actually do the physical work? It's not every time the Lord is going to send down an angel, and perform miracles on you. There is a time when there is a time when in their hands there is good success. You see that? When the physician, is able to heal you successfully. For they shall also pray unto the Lord, that he would prosper that, or prosper that which they give for ease and remedy to prolong life. See, so you pray, the physician prays, so that it goes successful. He that sinneth before his maker, let him fall into the hand of the physician, meaning let him not survive, the whatever treatment it is. That'll be his judgment. My son, let tears fall down over the dead, so weep for the dead, mourn, and begin to lament, as if thou hadst suffered great harm thyself. And then cover his body according to the custom, right? That's the burial, and neglect not his burial. Weep bitterly and make great moan, and use lamentation, as he is worthy. And that a day or two, right? Whoever it is that you lost, a dear loved one, mourn, let it all out. Lest thou be evil spoken of, and then comfort thyself for thy heaviness, right? Because if it's a very close loved one, and you just there, you got a smile on your face, you're not even crying, you're not shedding even one tear, people might look at you like, yo, damn, did you have a hand in this? Or like, what's up? They're going to speak about it, like, yo, such and such's son didn't even mourn, didn't even shed one tear, or such and such's husband didn't even, cry once. They weren't even sad at their wife's funeral, right? But afterwards, after you've mourned, comfort yourself for thy heaviness, right? It says here, for of heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength. So you don't want to enter into depression from your mourning, right? You mourn a bit, and then eventually you move on from it. If not, it can actually start to affect your health. In affliction also sorrow remaineth, and the life of the poor is a curse of the heart. In the GNTD, verse 19 says, grief lingers on after the death of a loved one, but it is not wise to let it lead you into poverty. Take no heaviness in heart, drive it away, and remember the last end. It says, don't lose yourself in sorrow, drive it away, remember that we must all die sometime. So don't let it, take you over completely. Forget it not, for there is no turning again, right? There's no coming back, from the dead. You can't bring somebody back. Thou shalt not do him good, but hurt thyself. The more you let that sorrow take over you, the Lord didn't say cry enough and I'll bring him back to life. So it's not going to bring the dead back, and it's only going to do you more harm, and it's not going to benefit them. Remember my judgment, for thine also shall be so. Yesterday for me, and today for thee. See, so remember that this may befall somebody. This may have befallen somebody before, but time and chance happeneth to them all. So eventually, yesterday might have been somebody else, but today might be you. When the dead is at rest, let his remembrance rest, and be comforted for him when his spirit is departed from him. Okay, it says when the dead when the dead have been laid to rest, let the memory of them fade. Once they are gone, take courage. Now, it doesn't mean go and forget about them completely, but you have to be able to, with balance, continue on with life. The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. Right? The more time he has, the more he can learn. But and if he doesn't have much work, then he can spend more time to learn. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow? Right? That's a working man. And that glorieth in the gold. So the one that holds the plow, right? He's the one, the husbandman. He's breaking up the earth, with the plow, or he glorieth with the gold. And this is what the gold looks like. It was used to direct or discipline cattle, like that. Okay, so usually when you're driving, as it's called, the cattle or the oxen, right? You use to guide and drive the cattle of oxen during plowing. That's when you're working. So it's describing, somebody that's working, that driveth oxen and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks, because that's his job. That's what he thinks about. That's what he does. That's what he spends most of his time doing. How can he gain wisdom? Because his time is occupied in work. He giveth his mind to make furrows, which are the lanes, right, in the earth to plant the seeds, right? Furrows. This is what it looks like. Oops. Right, these. Okay, these are the furrows. It says here, he giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kine fodder, right, to feed his cattle. So every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to counterfeit imagery, and watch to finish a work. Right, the GNTD for this verse, it says, it is the same with the artist and the craftsman, who work night and day engraving precious stones, carefully working out new designs. They take great pains to produce a lifelike image, and will work far into the night to finish the work. So they don't have time to acquire wisdom. The smith also, sitting by the anvil, considering the ironwork, right, that's the area where he does his job, where he has the furnace, right, considering the ironwork, the vapor of the fire wasteth his flesh, right, it burns, it's hot, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, right? He's constantly smiting, the piece of work, the metal part. It says, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watcheth to polish it perfectly. So doth the potter, sitting at his work, and turning the wheel about with his feet. Right? If you look at a potter and how they work, potter making pottery, you'll see they have something by the foot, and they step on it, and it it spins, so that they can then use that. If you watch a video of it, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a little paddle that they step on, and it spins the wheel as they shape the clay, or the whatever it is that they're trying to make. So it says, and turning the wheel about with his feet, who is always careful, set at his work, and maketh all his work by number. It says, it is the same with the potter, sitting at his wheel, and turning it with his feet, always concentrating on his work, concerned with how many objects he can produce. He fashioneth the clay with his arm, and boweth down his strength before his feet. He applieth himself to lead it over, or to let it over, and he is diligent to make clean the furnace. Verse 30 says, he works the clay with his feet until he can shape it with his hands. Then he takes great pains to glaze it properly, and will work far into the night to clean out the kiln, which is the furnace. All these trust to their hands, and every one is wise in his work. Without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will, nor go up and down. Right. So they're needful. You need to have them in society. It says here, without such people, there could be no cities. No one would live or visit where these services were not available. They shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit high in the congregation. They shall not sit on the judge's seat, nor understand the sentence of judgment. They're not. You're not going to catch a pot, you know, a silversmith or somebody that makes pottery or a potter, right, in the public council or sitting in the congregation and making judgments, in the judge's seat. No, that's not his job. Right? It says here, they cannot declare justice and judgment, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken. But they will remain in the state, or they will maintain the state of the world, and all their desire is in the work of their craft. Reading that in the GNTD, it says here, but the work they do holds the world together. When they do their work, it is the same as offering prayer. Right? But it's important, right? They're still needful for society. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 38th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rakha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.